Welcome to the Iceberg series. Our survivor has crash landed on an ice planet with no hope of rescue. Her only chance of survival is to carve out a shelter and try to warm up. If she can last long enough, perhaps she can cobble together a comms console and send out an emergency broadcast. Or perhaps she can use her experience in engineering to gather resources and put together a makeshift spacecraft to escape this frozen hellscape. First things first, let's get a shelter going for our survivor so she doesn't immediately freeze to death. It is pretty cold here. While she's busy with that, let's introduce her. Her name is Sarai Tang, but I'm going to call her Sarah. This run is set to losing his fun with the threat scale turned all the way up to 500%. I chose Randy for the storyteller for a bit of extra chaos. I won't be reloading any saves, so as a fair warning, this run could blow up at any time. But then again, I suppose that's part of the fun. Normally on sea ice, there's no resources and almost never any animals to hunt. Now with Odyssey, we can add an additional landmark, which gives us an iceberg to carve out and turn into the colony. With the addition of fishing, it'll also give us an alternative food source aside from relying solely on hydroponics. Even though animals are really rare here, there are a few new animal types that might show up that we could possibly take advantage of. Maybe we can get a penguin or two. Alright, with that out of the way, let's get to the story. Sarah grew up as an apprentice technician on a trade ship. The ship hopped between planets in a singular system, so there was never any need for cryptosleep. She spent all of her time learning how to repair broken machines and the systems that were critical to keep the ship functioning. Her ship was given a very unusual assignment that led them into an uncharted section of the system. During this exploratory mission, the ship was ambushed by pirates and several of the crew were killed, including the chief engineer. With no other option, the captain of the ship named Sarah as the new chief engineer, a role that she would serve in for several years before being assigned to a new, larger ship. This new ship was to be sent out to the outer reaches and confirm the status of several terraforming projects. Unfortunately, instead of a smooth arrival and deceleration at its first planetary destination, the ship was met with a massive debris field that punctured its shields and hull, causing explosive decompression, immediately killing a large portion of the crew before they were awoken from their cryptosleep. The surviving crew were all ejected from their cryptosleep, but by then it was too late. The survivors made for the emergency transport pods, but in the chaos, it's unclear how many successfully evacuated. Our survivor, the chief engineer of the ship, was one of the lucky few to make it to a transport pod and eject. And from there, things only got worse. This planet, the first terraforming project that they were scheduled to check, was decades from completion. The atmosphere was breathable, but most of the planet was still covered in ice. Sarah's transport pod landed right here, where we find her, leaving her on an iceberg at the edge of thousands of miles of frozen sea with nothing but the standard survival resources that each escape pod contains. Whether or not any of their survivors made it to the planet is still uncertain. Let's hope for her sake that there are at least a few others. Sarah's managed to cut a small shelter into the side of the iceberg. She's even got a nice little fire going with what little wood was in the emergency supply. Unfortunately, the fire isn't going to last long, so there's really no choice but to get some type of power source constructed right away. She's going to have to clear away a bit more ice so the wind turbine can fit correctly, just outside of the entrance. If it's too far away, then it'll cost unnecessary steel to run the conduit. It's also pretty helpful to keep it close for later on when defending against raids, since the raiders absolutely adore smashing up wind turbines. It's like a compulsion for them. Alright, the wind turbine's built. Now our survivor just needs to get the heater finished, and then she'll have a bit of reprieve from certain death. Certain frozen death. And now the heater's ready to go. I'm sure she's feeling slightly better knowing she has a semi-permanent heat source. It'll be a bit more permanent once we can get a battery built, but that's going to take a while yet. For now, she's going to have to nap at the back edge of her little cave since she hasn't taken the time to build a bed yet. Getting heat going was a bit more important than her comfort. That being said, we may as well get a bed going now for her. She can use the wood that's left over from inside the pod. Now she just needs a table and a source of recreation, and she'll have a nice little hole in the ground. Well, hole in the ice. Kind of a hobbit home, but in a giant ice cube. Oh, look, there's a snow hare wandering around out in front of the cave. Sarah's gonna have to go for a quick hunt here. It's necessary to gather every scrap of food possible. Luckily, everything stays frozen on this map, so it's not too hard to store food over the long term. And already a fox is coming up to try to steal her food. I guess the snow hare ended up being perfect bait to bring in a larger animal. Even more meat for later. And meanwhile, an exotic goods trader has shown up. I imagine this would be the moment where Sarah would be begging for rescue. Or at least for information about any surviving crew members. She does have silver and gold to trade for her salvation, and yet the traders are unwilling to help. I suppose after pleading with them for help, they were wary that it was a trap, and her offer of silver and gold seemed too convenient. It was likely a ploy to lure them in and ambush them. Especially when you consider that she suddenly appeared in the middle of a blizzard in the most unlikely of places. Unfortunately, they had no information about any surviving crew members in the area. At least that they were willing to trade. Perhaps the realization of nearby settlements will at least drive her to travel off in search of rescue. Sarah ended up finding some old mech wreckage out on the far side of the iceberg. She decided to go out and investigate, see if there's anything worth salvaging. After a bit of brute force and charge rifle surgery, Sarah managed to cause the core of the wreckage to explode, leaving a pile of steel and a functioning transponder. And it's time for her to fiddle with it, see what it does. Well, she doesn't have a research bench yet, so let's shelf that project temporarily. In the meantime, the cave is in need of a bit of expansion. Let's dig deeper, cut out some space for a new room. We really can't go too crazy here since we're still limited on how many heaters we can run, but if we only add one more room, for now everything should be okay. Well, the new room is small, but it at least fits a research table. And now Sarah can take a look at that transponder. Perfect. Now that she has a firm understanding of how the transponder works, she has all but to activate it. But for now, it's a bit safer to wait for the ideal moment. In the meantime, let's work on getting a smelter going. We may have plenty of ice for walls, but for actual construction, we're going to need a reliable source of steel, and the smelter is going to be the only real choice for that. Let's also use this last bit of our steel to get a butcher table going. It's possible to just use the butcher spot, but it's quite a bit less efficient, and it ends up giving a lot less meat per animal. And since animals are so rare, we really have to get the most out of each one. That being said, the butcher table is definitely worth the resource investment. Hopefully it doesn't get destroyed and have to be rebuilt over and over. We need to get battery tech going as soon as possible. The wind turbine is a bit too unreliable without having at least one battery store the excess. When the wind dies down, the heater dies, and everything starts to get quite a bit chillier inside. Usually the wind picks up before hypothermia sets in, or at least kills anyone, but better safe than sorry by having that battery. Sarah managed to get quite a bit of meat from the 3 animals that she killed. Let's not talk about where that cat came from. It's just too soon for Sarah. She successfully carved out a bit more space in this room. Eventually it's going to turn into her first full room, which will serve as bedroom, rec room, and dining room. For now, she's going to have to keep a research table in there too. It will have reduced research speed, but that's okay. She's really not in that much of a hurry. She won't have the resources to actually build most of the things she's going to research, at least not anytime soon. Well, it looks like we got a couple raiders to deal with. I think now is a good time to summon the Mechantor ship. See if we can't solve 2 problems with one mech attack. That's how that saying goes, right? I have to say, I do feel a bit bad for these raiders. They trudge all the way across the frozen wastes, only to have to cross a half a mile of water, only to be met with an angry lady with a charge rifle equipped. And they've got nothing but steel clubs. Well, I still hope it ends in Sarah's favor. They almost managed to close the gap in time, but Sarah jumped out at the last second and ran for it. Luckily, she managed to get just far enough away to unload her charge rifle into the chest of one of the raiders. I have absolutely no clue why, but the other raider decided instead of fighting for his life, it was better to turn, bash the wind turbine a few times. They seriously hate wind turbines, don't they? Well, Sarah took the opportunity to fire a burst into the back of that raider, and that was that. They didn't end up doing any damage to Sarah. Unluckily, they were way too fast to engage the Scyther, and now Sarah has to handle it herself. Well, let's see how this goes. The water is going to help slow the Scyther down at least. If she can just get a few hits to the legs, then she can easily finish it off by kiting it around. You'd think there'd be some mechanic for hypothermia increase while half submerged in Arctic water, but oh well, there's not. Sarah can just wait around out here with nothing but a movement speed penalty. At least the Scyther gets the movement speed penalty as well. They very quickly closed the distance, and Sarah only got away by the skin of her teeth. Hypothermia is building up, so she's going to have to be more careful spending too much time out here. She barely made large enough a gap to get inside the door before it chased her down. Well, I hope this door holds. Oops. Bit of an error there on my part. At least she didn't get chopped up because of me. Just like the raiders, the overwhelming urge to destroy the turbine has also taken the Scyther, and has turned around to chop it down. She made it just far enough away to turn and finish the thing off, thankfully. At least now she can go grab the mech link and get herself a little mech companion. I really hope it's a lifter bot. Ah, nope. It's a construction bot. That's okay. At least it'll help her with smoothing the walls. We'll just have to focus on basic mech tech and getting a gestator going. A hauling bot will be so much better than sending her out across the water and ice over and over. Now we just have to get one. At least the construction bot is already being useful by going out and taking out these ship parts. Normally you would use these for building an early ship on Odyssey, but since we're staying here for the whole run, we won't need any of these gravlight panels. The ship parts do give a bit of steel though, so let's at least grab that. Randy felt a bit of pity and sent a bunch of eggs for our survivor. These aren't really the best since we're primarily going to be using a nutrient paste dispenser, and eggs lose nutrition by going through the nutrient paste dispenser. But that's okay. At least it'll keep Sarah alive for a while. Oh nice, look, there's Devil Strand down here. I completely forgot about that. We can cheese it just a bit by using Caravan to allow the pawn to pick up stuff into their inventory. That way she can grab everything at once and just drop it back in the base. Let's do the same thing down here and bring all the steel back as well. Once we get a lifter, we can just leave all the hauling to that. But for now, I'd like to avoid 10 trips across the water. One thing to add to the to-do list is get this place a bit better organized. It's a complete mess right now, isn't it? I'm going to end up putting a few hallways in here, but for now, we can carve out a small little recess to put the butcher table back out of the hallway. I think I'll go ahead and throw some plans down just to get an idea of which direction we'll end up expanding in. It should be pretty quick to carve out new rooms when we do end up getting to it. Doesn't take very long to mine out this ice. Well, our luck is starting to improve. A bulk goods trader has just arrived from the Rabosa Coalition. Hopefully we can buy a pile of steel from them. Oh, nope, my mistake. It's a tribal trader. But hey, at least they'll have wood that they're willing to part with. I wish it was steel, but you know what they say. Beggars can't be choosers. I'd like to beg for a ride off the ice, but they're not offering. That all being said, they did have a cloth parka, which is going to be absolutely invaluable, so I shouldn't complain too much about them not bringing steel. At least our character will be able to survive outside a little bit easier. Okay, let's get all this hauled into our little ice cave. Man, that's wild. They left a unique weapon. Honestly, it has pretty good traits. Reduced aiming time and increased range. But the truth is, it's absolutely worthless to me as a weapon right now. Best case scenario, I'm gonna have to sell this to a trader and try to buy some steel with it. Or worst case, I'm just gonna have to burn this thing and get rid of the extra wealth. We'll see what ends up happening. Oh, look at that. Some Thrumbos have appeared on the map. If I go out and try to hunt them solo, then poor Sarah's gonna be eaten alive, figuratively speaking. I don't think Thrumbos actually eat people. They do like packet survival meals though. If I leave one just outside the door, it should lure them in, then I can slowly whittle them down, until it collapses from blood loss. In the meantime, let's work on carving out more of this room. I'm going to build a nutrient paste dispenser in the north wall of the room, but we're also going to need some space to store frozen food. That's going to go in this small 3x11 rectangle to the north. Ooh, a blizzard has set in. It's pretty nasty outside, but at least it does make the cave feel a bit more cozy, doesn't it? Nice. Now the nutrient paste dispenser is up and ready to go. Now we just need to run some conduit up there, and we can power the thing. I'd like to eventually deconstruct the wind turbine and replace it with some solar panels in areas carved out inside the iceberg. But for now, we're gonna have to stick with what we got. Oh, hey, would you look at that? A Thrumbo is finally taking the bait. Let's try to wound it before it eats the meal. And it ate the meal. Unfortunately, Sarah was not able to cause enough bleeds to kill it. She's gonna have to do a bit more damage before it runs away. And it ran away. That was pretty unlucky. Usually they run around for a little bit, but this one decided to sprint straight for the edge of the map. These Thrumbos understand property rights, and they know all too well I can't chase beyond our territory to hunt it. I don't want the Empire finding me for poaching. Alright, well, back to the cave. In better news, a walrus is self-tamed. I wonder how long a walrus can survive on a tile like this as a pet. They do seem perfectly fine swimming around out in the water as wild animals, and none of them starve to death. Maybe they'll be cool continuing to just swim circles and hang out for a while. I'm gonna nickname our new friend Wally, after the famous cartographer, who wasn't a walrus, but it would have been cooler if he was. Alright, battery tech is just finished. It has taken a few days, but now we have access to the most important early game technology. No more having to lose power whenever the wind drops. Next up, we can have Sarah start working on hydroponics tech. That whole project's going to be quite an undertaking, but better to get it started and slowly work on it. Alright, the battery's built, but we're going to have to smooth these walls and install some conduit. I still have this bad habit of using hidden conduit inside walls. I know hidden conduits can be built wherever and forgotten, but old habits die hard, and I'm so used to putting conduits in walls that I just don't know how to stop. Someone please send help. Until then, conduits go in the walls. Awesome, the walls are smooth, the conduits are installed, and the battery's ready to go. Sarah's busy working on bringing more steel slab back to the cave, and Wally's just hanging out living his best life. Kinda jealous that Wally has no cares or stresses in the entire world. The entire frozen world, but hey, that's kinda perfect for a walrus, isn't it? Just a few more conduit and the paste dispenser will finally be connected. She still has plenty of meat from before and all those eggs that landed as part of a cargo drop. That should last her a fair while at least. Fantastic. The last bit of conduit is built and this ice cave officially has a fully functioning nutrient paste dispenser. Throw some floors in here, we've got a solid little home. Now we can move all of the furniture into the room and rearrange things a little bit. Alright, that looks good. I think it's finally about time to tear down the rest of this exo shredder out here. It's going to take Sarah a really long time to do it herself, but she can order the construction bot to melee each of the pieces. Then it'll just keep bashing away until it's finished. Yep, Sarah's mood has dropped way too low just because she was out here way too long. And now she's broken. At least it's a hide in room break, so she won't just wander around out in the freezing cold water. The very first thing she decided to do was to go to sleep, and it immediately ended the break. That does happen sometimes, and I love it so much when it does. Well, hey, to be fair, sometimes taking a nap is all you need. The pack of Meruwados, that's a mouthful, has sent out a raider to scout out this new camp. I wonder how they even knew it was here to begin with. Ooh, ouch. Just one burst and the raider's done. You'd think if their scout never returns, they'd give up. But we all know it doesn't work that way. I suppose if the leader's brazen enough, maybe they send out more, find out what happened to the scout. I guess that makes sense too when you think about it. Now we need to set up a couple bills here on the smelter to make sure we can scrap down all of the clothing and armor that we get from incoming raiders. Flak jackets and pants are definitely better this patch, but still not worth using in a biome like this. I'm absolutely keeping any flak vests we get though. Sarah went on a quick little trip across the river to pick up more of that slag that was sitting over there. It sure does take a while, but at least she can bring back a few at a time with Caravan. Once we get that lifter bot going, then she can stay in the safety of the ice cave while the robots do the work. For now though, we need a lot more steel. Ah, look at that. Randy sent more steel and quite a bit of food. Those are the two things we can never have enough of at this point in the run. Now we just need another caravan to haul this stuff back. You may notice I use that a lot in these kind of runs, but I can't help myself. Way better than doing 6 trips to haul this stuff back. Next up, Sarah's going to have to start carving out a new room that can be used for growing our mechs. We don't have quite enough steel to get a lifter yet, but we're getting really close. At the very least, we can install a charger to make sure that our construction bot has plenty of energy. There aren't going to be a ton of construction projects for it to work on, but at least there's quite a lot of smoothing that needs to get done, and they can stay busy with that. On top of that, it's nice to have it as a melee blocker for those early raids. A lot better than having only one pawn to fight. Alright, nice. The charge is ready, and now we can get our little buddy juiced up. The room really isn't very big, but it's plenty of space for the encoder and the gestation tank. Speaking of which, we can already build the encoder. The construction bot can do the work while Sarah continues to shred down the remaining mechs on the map. Ooh, a couple of rabid Arctic fox have arrived. I'm sure between Sarah and the construction bot, they'd have no problem killing them, but honestly, I think it's a bit better just to hide out inside. Let's even bring Wally in just in case. I really don't want our favorite walrus to get Scaria. Maybe we'll get lucky and a raider will show up and take out the Arctic fox for me. Or then again, maybe the raider will get taken out. Win-win. While hiding out inside, Sarah's been able to finish her first subcore. This one's definitely going towards our first lifter bot. That's going to make things so much easier. Now we just need a bit more steel to finish the gestator, and then we'll be on our way. Oh, nice! Another walrus is self-tamed. And this one's a male, too. I wonder if we can start breeding them as livestock. It would be fantastic if they can keep surviving by fishing. It won't be unlimited food, but it sure would be nice to have a supplement for our food supply. This walrus I'm going to name Russell. Russell, you better get inside before you get bit by one of these rabid Arctic fox. Last thing we need is a rabid walrus. Now that there's only one Arctic fox left, and it's just napping outside, I think I've changed my mind. Let's send Sarah and the construction bot out to finish this thing off. There we go, quick and easy. Now let's get back to trying to take out the rest of this Exostrider. There should be enough steel to finish the gestator and get the lifter bot going. Perfect. Now that it's all smelted down, there is enough steel with just a bit left over. We've already got that mech subcore, so now we just need to get the power connected, and then we can get the lifter growing. An exotic goods trader has just shown up, but unfortunately we really don't have that much to trade. I suppose we could get rid of this plasteel. We won't be using it for a really long time. All I can get for it is one component. Well, it's better than nothing. You gotta love that timing. Right as the trader left, a raid arrives. At least the construction bot should be able to hold the door for Sarah, just in case the raider gets too close. Oh no, never mind. The raider died almost immediately upon coming into range of the charge rifle. Oh well, on to the next thing. Okay, now we have all the resources we need. Let's get this lifter bot going. Now we just gotta get this thing baking and then we wait. Well, it looks like our newest little friend is all finished. Now we just need to pop him out of the goo vat. Well, between 2 robots and 2 walruses, at least Sarah will be a little less lonely in her ice hole. I think we are going to need some names for these robots. If you have an idea for a robot name, let me know down in the comments. Otherwise, I'll have to think about it for a while. Fishing deck is just finished, but at this point, I'm not sure it's worth investing the time in trying to get fish with only 1 colonist, especially when we already have so much food. Once we get 2 or 3 colonists, then we can have one of them dedicated to bringing in fish. But until then, we'll have to see how much fishing we actually end up doing. Now it's back to hydroponics research, which she really didn't even end up researching at all before, did she? Luckily, there's still a significant amount of food in that ice chest, so nothing to worry about there. Hey, a combat supplier has arrived from Tyron. Let's see how long they decide to stay in the cold. They didn't even make it all the way across the water before calling it quits. Too cold for them, I guess. Unfortunately, Sarah's not going to be able to trade with these guys. Instead, let's have a little cave party. Sarah can give an inspiring speech to her robots. Maybe she can start working towards reforming the ideology as well. Well, looks like she didn't get a new recruit, but she did get a reform point at least. Immediately after that, some raiders showed up to say hello. Ooh, scratch that, just 1 raider. Ooh, double scratch that, no raiders. That was quick. At least they left us a steel club to smelt down for more resources. I guess everyone is suddenly angry at Sarah. Now a walrus is charging across the water towards the entrance. Something clearly upset this thing. It's probably envious of Wally and Russell. Either way, it died quick and now it's going into the food stockpile. Now that we have a second, I just want to take a quick peek at what Sarah was saying to her robots during the speech. She extolled the virtues of her own group. The virtues of her and her robots, I suppose. Then she talked about being together with them. Oh, that's cute. After that, she raved about the joy of ideological celebrations. I think that means she was really having a fun time during the ritual. Lastly, she praised the moral structure of the universe. I'm quite certain that these robots don't understand ethics, but Sarah doesn't know that. At least she's treating them kindly. That's something. And hydroponics tech is just finished. Now we need to start planning out where the first Hydra room is going to go. It is going to take quite a few heaters and a whole pile of steel to fill the room with tables. Like I said before, this is going to be a long-term project. We could potentially start with fungus in a dark room, that way we don't need the extra power of the sun lamp. That'll at least help us save on resources. That's the end of episode 1 of the Iceberg series. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this episode, please give it a thumbs up, make sure you subscribe to the channel for updates on all future videos. For those of you who made it all the way to the end, please consider checking out my Patreon to help support the creation of more videos like this one. You'll find the link in the description below. Thanks for watching, and see you for the next one.